Alright, so this is a 3D printing tutorial. I finished my car. I've broken it into pieces, so I have a main body, I have a nose cone, and a rear tether line guide. For this example, I am milling my wings on as a part of my body, so I don't have to worry about 3D printing the rear wings. But so for this example, I only have a rear tether line guide to 3D print and a nose cone to 3D print. So what I need to do is export these out. So I right click on the part I want to export from the model browser on the left hand side. So save it as an STL file, and default this will be set to a medium or something like that. I always set the refinement to a high, and hit OK. And you can output it directly to the 3D printing utility. It involves a little bit of setup for this example. You will just export it out as a file. Now I'm going to save it onto my desktop. You can save it into your folder or wherever you need. So that saves an STL file. STL is the standard format for 3D printing files. I'll do the same with my tether guide. For this example, I'm just going to do the nose. Alright, so now I'm going to head across to Prusa Slicer here to open up Prusa. You might have to set this up the first time you're going to use it, and that will involve setting up a range of printers. We are going to be using a Mark III and a Mark III's printer, so if you need to set that up, a 0.4 nozzle on a Mark III and a Mark III's. So they're the only printers that we have available. Obviously, I can see the platter in this view. I'm just going to go File, Import, and import an STL. So I would have to do this twice. So File, Import for my nose, and one for my rear tether line guide once I've exported them. So open. Might take a couple of seconds to load in. Here's my now it randomly places my model down on the platter, and this little icon here will allow you to place it on a different surface. So for this example, as much as possible, the surface which is touching the platter is going to be the roughest. So you want to sort of make that sort of hidden as much as possible. Now, that would work quite well because you won't see this part of the vehicle. It does mean that the model is quite tall and skinny, and that quite often will fail. So the safest way to print this would be flat down like that. It will mean that the bottom edge will be quite rough. Now, whenever we're 3D printing, obviously we've got to choose a quality. Usually go around quality to detail. Our machines probably won't be able to put out an ultra detailed version, so I'd stick with detail or quality. Obviously, the more detail you can have, the longer the printing will take. Under filament, I'm going to choose generic PLA. The default will probably be Prusa PLA. Let's change that to generic. And then choose the type of printer that you're going to be using. Now in the machine room there's one Mark III and there's all the others are Mark III's. So that one is Mark III's. Now your infill should be usually around about 15%. You could, if you want it to be stronger, you could change it up to 30%. For the most part, we want it to be as light as possible. So less infill is better. At the end of the day, most of these designs are not going to be particularly big, so there's not going to be a whole lot of infill anyway. But one thing that's worthwhile turning on is something called brim, and that just helps the model stick to the platter just a little bit better. It just runs a little bit of a ring of filament around the bottom and helps it stick a little bit better. Now, we'll probably need supports. So if I were building this, I'm going to slice this up now. If I were building this, obviously the 3D printer is going to build it up out of layers. So it will build up this part here, and it will build up these two sides, and it'll get to about here, and then it's going to try and build this in mid-air, this next surface. All this stuff through is built in mid-air. Now, there is a pretty high chance that that's going to fail. Like, it can't just build things in mid-air. So that's where we need supports, and we need to sort of brace it underneath. We need a surface to build on. So all this stuff in here. So sometimes you can get away without supports. Most of the time you're going to need them. Now, obviously supports is another thing you're going to have to remove when you've finished 3D printing, but it means that it'll actually come out as a finished component. So let's come back, we'll add some supports. I'll just click everywhere. I'm just saying warning, you have to redo this, re-slice this. So slice again. So now it's built up with supports. Now all this green stuff in here is our supports. So you can see it's building little support structures underneath to hold up stuff on the top. Now that does mean in this format it's going to be a fair bit of material to remove from this inside surface here, which can get a little bit messy. But as I said, it means it will be a successful print. Down the bottom here, where my head is, it'll give you an idea, indication of how long the print's going to take and how much material you're going to use. From here you can export the G-code, and ideally you do that straight to the SD card, and then you can just put the SD card straight into the printing. So I might have an experiment. I might change the orientation. This is about just over 2 hours it will take to do this print. So let's go back. Let's say I were to place it on this face here. You can see what will happen. Now, this might be worthwhile in this case. It's going to have some support material through here, but there's probably going to be less inside my nose, the way that my nose is designed. It's probably going to be less inside of here. So, let's see. Let's slice this design up now. Disappears for a second while it does its thing. Alright, so you can see with this example there's a whole lot less support. It's still about 2 hours, 2 hours 8 minutes, so very fractionally longer, but it'll probably give me a cleaner looking model now. As I said, there's no definite way you have to make this, but what I found is usually very, very thin models don't like being printed standing up like this, even though it would probably give you the best result, but there's a high risk of failure on this. Now, as I said, you can export the G-code. Ideally you do that straight onto the SD card, but that is I'm not sure. Thank you.